Madam Speaker, a majority of Americans now say that Donald Trump is doing a bad job at handling the economy, and I don't blame them. Prices are going up on everything, in large part because of Trump's tariffs. Meanwhile, wages for workers have not kept pace with inflation for decades. Home ownership is slipping out of the reach for more and more people. And so I will end this debate where we began. Whose side are my Republican colleagues on? Talk is cheap, Madam Speaker. This place runs on hot air from corrupt politicians whose only care in the world is where their next campaign check comes from. Last night in the Rules Committee, Democrats gave Republicans a chance to show whose side they're on. Every single one of them voted against protecting Medicaid so they could give tax breaks to billionaires. That's how they voted. Every single one of them voted against protecting the child tax credit so they could give tax cuts to billionaires. Every single one of them voted against protecting food assistance for hungry families so they could give tax breaks to billionaires. And so the gentlelady can claim whatever she wants. The truth is this budget betrays the middle class in favor of tax giveaways for billionaires. It gives trillions in handouts to the ultra-wealthy, billionaires and greedy corporations to the tune of $314,266 each every year for the top 0.1%, and that's an average. Some of them are going to get millions. That's a bigger giveaway to the ultra-rich than most people make in a year. And to pay for it, they're going to steal from you, the American people. They are stealing from you. They are betraying the people who voted for them. This is a betrayal on a scale I don't think we've ever seen before. And I am going to fight to expose it and to stop it. I've said this over and over and over again. We need tax relief for workers, not the ultra-rich. We need to preserve Social Security and Medicare, not gut them to pay for corporate handouts. We should protect Medicaid and food benefits for working families because we know these programs that people rely on and need when times get tough. So, Madam Speaker,
his time has expired.
Madam Speaker, you can shut me up.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman is not recognized. Gentlelady from Indiana is recognized.
Last night at the Rules Committee, we caught Democrats dead to rights. A Democrat tried to refer to the alleged, quote, cuts, end quote, in our debate, but instead admitted that, quote, it's not there, end quote. That's right. It's not in the budget resolution. You simply cannot find programmatic cuts in any respect. And I stand here to tell the truth about this budget and the rule we need to get it across the line. From shielding Americans from the greatest tax increase in history to supporting the military, allocating resources to the Trump administration to secure the border, to trimming wasteful programs, our budget resolution has solutions that the American people expect and demand. President Trump specifically requested one big, beautiful bill, and the House Republicans have answered that request with a constructive, full-bodied product. Now let's juxtapose our beautiful bill with the failed reconciliation schemes passed by Democrat Congresses. They used it to pass Obamacare, robbing Medicare of over $700 billion of funds in the process and kicking Americans off their health insurance plans after promising to keep them. They hijacked the process to pass the so-called American Rescue Plan to waste over $2 trillion in taxpayer funds, fueling the greatest inflation rates in generations. And lastly, they used the reconciliation process just a few years ago to pass one of the worst pieces of legislation in the modern era, the so-called Inflation Reduction Act. That catastrophe of a bill was a one-way ticket to financial ruin. It wasted money on green energy schemes, punished companies that proudly develop American energy, and ironically drove up costs on every American family.
Mr. Speaker, the gentlelady is talking about what was said in the Rules Committee last night. I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about how people voted in the Rules Committee last night. We gave Republicans a chance last night in the Rules Committee. We said if they really don't believe that this budget cuts funding for school meals, if they really believe what they're saying, then they can vote to assure the American people that they're not going to steal school meals from kids in order to give tax breaks for millionaires. Every Republican voted no, every single one of them. Then Democrats offered an amendment to protect Medicaid. And Medicaid, as you know, Mr. Speaker, covers 41% of all births in the United States, nearly half of children with special health care needs, and 5 in 8 nursing home residents. We asked them not to cut Medicaid in order to fund tax breaks for billionaires. Every Republican voted no. Then Democrats offered an amendment to extend tax cuts for people making under $400,000 while ensuring that corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. We asked Republicans to continue tax cuts for only those who need them the most, because those are the tax cuts they let expire while their tax cuts for greedy corporations were made permanent. We asked them to prioritize working families over greedy corporations. Every Republican voted no. Then Democrats offered an amendment preventing tax giveaways for people earning over $1 million a year. Every Republican voted no. We wanted to see if there was anyone so rich that Republicans don't think they deserve a tax giveaway. So we asked them to vote against tax breaks for people earning over $100 million per year. We asked them to side with factory workers and firefighters over hedge fund managers and billionaire bankers. Every Republican voted no. We even offered an amendment preventing tax cuts for people with a net worth of over, get this, $1 billion. Every Republican voted no. They betrayed their constituents. They voted to steal from the American people in order to protect tax breaks for billionaires. Again, this is about whose side you're on. And Republicans showed us last night with their votes whose side they're on. And it's not the working people of this country. I reserve my time.
Gentlelady from Indiana is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 3.5 minutes to the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Jack.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, in addition to the budget resolution, which I support, I rise today in support of the rule for H.J. Res. 20, a resolution authorized by the Congressional Review Act that will enable our Congress to repeal a job-killing Biden administration regulation that would ban and eliminate non-condensing tankless water heaters, an American product made by blue-collar American workers in the heart of my congressional district in Georgia. This regulation was passed in the midnight hours of the Biden administration on December 26th, after Christmas, and weeks after Americans soundly rejected the Biden-Harris regulatory regime, putting in peril the livelihoods of hundreds of my constituents the day after Christmas. To put this into perspective, non-condensing tankless water heaters account for 40% of our country's tankless water heater market, and a majority of those non-condensing tankless water heaters are manufactured in my congressional district by an incredible company called Renai America Corporation. These water heaters are the most advanced and efficient non-condensing tankless water heaters on the market. And perhaps most importantly, Renai America is the only company that builds non-condensing tankless water heaters on American soil.
Mr. Speaker, we're here talking about billions of dollars of cuts to Medicaid and cuts to school meals and food for children, and this guy's talking about tankless water heaters. I mean, read the room. I should just say that by supporting this budget resolution, he's betraying 125,952 constituents in his district that depend on Medicaid for their essential care. I now yield 1 minute and 15 seconds to the gentleman from Rhode Island, Mr. Magazziner.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. I rise in opposition to Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and House Republicans stealing trillions of dollars from the middle class to fund massive tax cuts for billionaires. Instead of focusing on the cost of living or making America safer, Republicans are planning a massive giveaway to the rich, with working people picking up the tab. They want $2 trillion in tax cuts for people making more than $500,000 a year by extending Trump's 2017 tax plan. $2 trillion for people making more than $500,000 a year. And how are they going to pay for it? By cutting Medicaid. That's health care for 77 million Americans, 80,000 Rhode Islanders, including seniors, children, and people with disabilities. Nursing homes and community health centers all across this country will shut down. And it's not just health care. This bill takes money from education, farmers, and small businesses, all for billionaire tax cuts. These Republicans are not fighting for you. They are fighting for Donald and Elon's rich friends at Mar-a-Lago, and you're paying for it. I urge my colleagues to vote no, and I yield back.
By the way, Mr. Speaker, how's that mandate going for you guys now that voters are realizing that you betrayed them? Let's look at some of your newspapers from around the country. Georgia congressman confronted by angry crowd over support for Trump's agenda. This is from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Quote, U.S. Rep. Rich McCormick was peppered with boos and catcalls throughout a town hall meeting in Roswell late Thursday as hundreds of critics jeered the Republican for backing President Donald Trump's agenda during his first month in office. There's another one. Quote, U.S. Rep. Glenn Grothman faces hostile crowd in Oshkosh town hall meeting. That's in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Quote, protesters urge Rep. Scott Perry to say no to Medicaid cuts. That's in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Quote, outside Congressman's office, protesters make noise over potential Medicaid cuts. That's from Representative Ryan McKenzie's district in Salisbury Township in Pennsylvania. I could spend an hour reading into the record, Mr. Speaker. Republicans are getting chewed out at all of their town halls. Something is happening in this country right now, and you can feel it, because people are waking up to the betrayal, and they are angry, and they have a right to be angry. So for my Republican colleagues, just remember that when you vote for this budget, you are on record. You have made it clear that you serve the billionaires and not your voters. And at this time, I'd like to yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Sorensen.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Looking around this room, I ask my colleagues, shouldn't our government benefit those we represent back home? But what's being presented by my Republican colleagues today? A plan that would gut 152,483 of my neighbors at home who depend on Medicaid for health care. More than 66,000 kids under the age of 19. 10,000 seniors back home rely on Medicaid in Illinois 17 for their nursing home coverage. While you may see this as a numbers game on a budget, I see families, I see neighbors, I see loved ones. And let me let you in on a secret, because there aren't any Republicans in this room. There are more Republican constituents of mine that are calling my office saying, we may have voted for Donald Trump, but we didn't vote for him to do this. This is cruel and unusual punishment to single out everyday Americans, making them go without. Also, billionaire donors and big corporations get the tax breaks to make them more wealthy. Let's get back to doing the work for the American people who need us to do this work the most. I yield back.